Today on Hearts of Heroes.
Gonna be once in a career type call.
A man is buried alive under tons of sand and gravel.
We didn't know if this guy was even gonna still be alive when we got there.
His mid-torso to his waist was covered in gravel. He was moaning, he was in pain.
We needed to get down there.
But as the hours pass, his hopes for survival grow increasingly dim.
When the secondary collapse happened,
He was now totally buried.
that's when we knew everything's changed.
I thought that we lost him.
Heroes are the everyday champions willing to risk everything for those in need.
Life-saving operations are never simple, but some are so vast and complex that first responders have to collaborate with neighboring departments to make a successful rescue.
When a concrete plant worker was buried under hundreds of pounds of sand and gravel, multiple agencies sprang into action. From the moment they arrived, the man's fate was uncertain.
Paulding and Cobb are neighboring counties located in northwest Georgia.
It's definitely a diverse area. We got the city, and then we got the rural areas that have a lot of land area, but not a lot of population density.
Firefighter Parker Lee works for Squad 7 in Cobb County, where he specializes in heavy rescue.
Here on the heavy rescue, any structure fire or vehicle entrapment that occurs in the southern half of the county, Squad 7 will be dispatched to it.
Cobb County has a unique arrangement with neighboring counties.
In Paulding and Cobb, we have a mutual aid agreement to where if there is an incident where either one of us need resources from the other, we're absolutely there.
Paulding County would set this partnership into motion one frigid morning in 2023, just days before Christmas.
We were actually on our way to a medical call when this call was dispatched.
We heard that run come in for a patient trapped in a concrete hopper.
A hopper is a large container designed for bulk materials like grain, rock, or sand. It tapers toward the bottom, allowing it to discharge its contents through an opening at the base.
It's probably roughly 15 to 20 feet from top to bottom, and it starts out wide and it kind of narrows down towards the bottom where there's an opening, and that opening feeds onto, in this case, a conveyor belt.
Earlier that morning, a worker at a concrete plant was trying to dislodge frozen sand and gravel from an industrial hopper, when suddenly a freak accident happened.
He was taking a metal pole trying to knock the gravel off the side.
Him doing that caused it to collapse on top of him.
The man was now partially buried in the hopper. Paulding County firefighters knew that this would be a big rescue.
This was something that's going to require a lot of resources. It's going to take a lot of time.
This is gonna be once in a career type call.
Soon, a mutual aid alert went out to neighboring Cobb County Fire Department.
I had absolutely no idea what to expect. All we knew is that there was a man at a concrete mixing facility who was trapped in a concrete hopper. We didn't know if this guy was even gonna still be alive when we got there.
It was a 15-minute drive to the concrete facility, and Captain Josh Collier was determined not to waste a second.
I was thinking on the way there, we're gonna need a vacuum truck if he's buried.
A vacuum truck is designed to suction up extremely heavy material.
Theirs is like a 2,000-liter tank on the back, and it has this extendable boom type vacuum hose that just extends out. Then you can suck up fluids, you can suck up dirt, really whatever you need.
When the firefighters arrived, they were astonished to find that the man was still alive.
His mid-torso to his waist was covered in gravel. He was moaning, you could tell he was in pain.
Coming up,
They were going to lower me down in there to see what we needed.
While we were doing all that, there was a secondary collapse.
but first, there is nothing more patriotic than flying the red, white, and blue. However, when your flag has seen better days, it's important to know that there are honorable ways to retire it.
The American flag. It's a symbol of freedom, dedication, and honor. But like any material, over time, your flag can tatter and wear with age.
Here are several organizations prepared to receive your retired flag: the American Legion, the VFW, Scouts of America, in many police and fire departments. These groups, as well as others, will be honored to receive your worn flag and dispose of it in a respectful and dignified manner.
Many of these organizations hold public ceremonies where they safely burn these retired symbols of freedom. Check online to find out how you and your family can witness this honorable and traditional ritual.
On an icy, cold, late December morning, firefighters from multiple departments were called to a rescue of a man buried under tons of sand.
We couldn't really communicate with him, but we knew he was still alive at the time. We needed to get somebody on rope down there with him as quick as we could.
You can only see so much from a bird's eye view.
They wanted us to set up our truck to use for a rope system. We have to back the truck up and set up the bucket of our truck above for a height advantage.
They were going to lower me down in there to see what we needed, try to make patient contact.
As the teams rigged their ropes, the gravel inside the silo suddenly collapsed, burying the victim.
He started screaming, and that's when we looked in, and all we could see was a basketball-sized hole down the back of his legs.
He was buried in a bent-over position, and that was the only visual we had, and he was obviously unable to move because of how much material was on top of him.
He was moaning real loud and screaming real loud, and that's when we knew everything's changed. We went from possibly just sending me down to putting a harness on him to pulling him out to kind of feeling defeated because now we're having to reevaluate our scenario.
Lowering a rescuer to pull the victim out was now deemed impractical. A new strategy was essential.
With the man buried under the gravel, they would need much heavier resources. Luckily, the vacuum truck arrived shortly after. Firefighter Ben Clark got harnessed up and prepared to go in.
The plan was put me in a harness and I'll work that vacuum without causing more collapse. Just trying to pull as much material out as we can.
With that, they lowered Clark into the hopper with the vacuum hose.
I remember kind of playing around with it, seeing how I'd be able to move it around in the hole while I'm suspended. And I could tell right away that it's not a very graceful piece of equipment. Like it jerks around, it moves around.
It was definitely a challenging aspect to the rescue itself. Ben was limited in his movement because he's free suspended at that point. I was right at the edge the whole time, communicating with Ben, communicating with our rope operating systems, whether we needed to haul Ben or lower him a little more, communicating with both of those lines, as well as feeding information back to the incident commander.
Once I got in there, it was very difficult. It was difficult for me to reach all four corners of the hopper and pull material through that vacuum without causing more collapse. I'm trying to avoid banging against the sides, but eventually, yeah, I have to touch something to give myself some leverage to move to other parts of the hopper. At any point, we touch anything around the concrete hopper, cause some sort of vibrations, all that material could fall down on top of the victim and kill him.
To protect the man from further injury, the firefighters quickly came up with the idea to lower a large corrugated pipe into the hopper.
The plan was to set down over the exposed part of the victim in case there was a secondary collapse. Hopefully, most of that material would collapse on top of the pipe instead of on top of the victim.
But placing the pipe was precarious and vacuuming around it strenuous.
We couldn't get the corrugated pipe sunk into that material far enough to surround him. So this guy that Paulding had on the system in the air was mostly just trying to maneuver it around the corrugated pipe to prevent it from bumping it because the slightest vibration was causing more of that material to cover him up.
Suddenly, their worst fears came through. There was yet another collapse.
When the collapse happened, we heard him screaming in pain, I'm hurt, get me out of here.
We could no longer see that portion of his lower back that we could when we first got there. He was now totally buried.
Honestly, in my mind, I thought, he's gone. We lost him.
Coming up, the man's fate balances on a razor's edge.
It was a moment of shock. It was that real pit of your stomach feeling.
But first, As you can see, firefighters are willing to risk everything to save lives, but prevention plays a key role in all of us staying safe. Here's a tip to stay safe in your home.
We often associate burns with fire, but many household injuries actually result from steam and hot liquids. In fact, they make up an estimated 40% of burn cases in America.
Scalding injuries are frequently caused by household items like clothing steamers, pressure cookers, and boiling water. Be careful when using these items and try to keep your face and your hands away from the steamer whenever possible.
If you or someone else gets burned, don't hesitate to call 911 or see a doctor right away. Stay alert and stay calm. Keeping your cool can keep you out of hot water.
After a concrete worker was trapped under sand and gravel for hours, firefighters made a heroic effort to rescue him. Then there was a second collapse, and the man's situation became even more critical.
Undeterred, they would make one last bold attempt to get him out, but time was quickly running out.
After a wall of sand collapsed on a concrete worker, the man was totally buried and hope was fading.
It was a horrible, horrible feeling because I think we all felt that we had just lost him. We failed to get him out alive. It was that real pit of your stomach feeling.
Still, they weren't ready to give up. They decided to remove the corrugated pipe to give the rescuers a better shot.
It got to a point where the corrugated pipe was really doing no good, maybe even more harm than good, because trying to maneuver that vacuum hose and keep the pipe over him was just causing more vibration.
So we agreed to pull the culvert pipe back out and get it out of the way and then start back to vacuuming.
But firefighter Ben Clark had been in the harness for nearly an hour, and it was starting to take a physical toll on him.
Suspended in midair, trying to move a heavy piece of equipment. It took every muscle in my body to move that around the hopper and try to pull material. It's rough on the body, restricting blood flow, cutting off blood flow.
He had been on rope for an extended amount of time, so it was time to get him out.
With the man still buried and the clock ticking, their options were running out.
Their best hope now would be to get another rescuer down in the hopper.
So we all kind of came to the agreement, we're putting people in the hole and we're just gonna start manhandling it, just start digging. We lowered an extension ladder into the hopper so I could climb down it and clipped myself into the rope system just in case I became trapped or it became too dangerous for me and I wasn't able to use the ladder to climb out.
Parker Lee, a trained paramedic, brought a medical bag with him.
I had 2 shovels that I'd been given, 2 small handheld shovels, and just started shoveling as fast as I could. Taking a shovelful and throwing it into the vacuum tube to get it to suck it up. I don't even know how long I was digging and shoveling for. It might have only been 5 minutes, I really have no idea. But I started digging down to where I thought he might be. I still couldn't see any of him.
Soon, another Cobb County firefighter went down to help him.
The second Cobb rescuer went down. They started hand digging.
Suddenly, something miraculous happened.
While I was down there, I noticed the sand was kind of pulsating. It scared me at first. I didn't know what it was, and what it was he could feel the material getting dug off of him, and there was only a couple inches left, and he was lifting his head up like that. It was the back of his head lifting up the sand.
When he was trying to lift his head up to breathe, you could see the gravel move. And it came from possibly recovery to now we're back in rescue mode.
It was a moment of shock, actually. I was like, this guy's still alive. You know, we still have a chance to get him out of here. When I finally uncovered his face and he was able to lift his head up out of the material, all he could say was thank you.
I remember seeing Parker put his thumb up like that, say, hey, he's talking to me, he's good. That was a huge moment right there.
I was exhausted from shoveling, just the emotional stress alone from all these ups and downs of this call, but the elation that I felt when I realized that he was still alive, it was everything it took to not just sit there and hug him almost, but we just had to focus and get him out.
As his partner kept digging out the rest of the man's body, firefighter Lee attended to the victim's urgent medical needs.
Our main concern was going to be compartment syndrome. And that's a type of condition where the blood vessels are either obstructed or totally blocked off. And the waste that occurs from cellular respiration, your body is unable to remove that waste, and that waste accumulates.
All that kind of gets released back into the bloodstream, and it could be fatal.
He was immediately given an IV of sodium bicarbonate.
Sodium bicarbonate is just a very high alkali medication. So that alkali medication neutralizes a lot of that acidity that's accumulated.
Once the man's condition was stabilized, the two firefighters got him up the ladder. But firefighter Lee had one last word of encouragement.
I was like, we're gonna get you home to your family for Christmas.
And they were pulling him up the ladder to get him to the helicopter to get him sent off.
I think it took a minute to really understand the full weight of what happened.
It was like 1,000 pounds lifted off your shoulders. Everybody was, clapping, happy. I mean, everybody's like, I can't believe this happened. I mean, I can't believe he's still alive.
I think we all just kind of looked around and we all realized what we had done. Everybody was hugging each other afterwards. So we were hugging Paulding guys were hugging us, we were hugging ambulance crews. Everybody was just elated that we had all done this.
Coming up, a high-flying look at the intense training involved in high-angle rescues.
It's unbelievable. Okay, I'm getting ready. Well, looking down, I can really see how you get a bird's eye view of a rescue from up here.
Firefighters in Georgia's Cobb and Spalding counties had pulled off a miracle, rescuing a man buried alive for almost 6 hours. Afterward, the magnitude of what they accomplished sank in.
It took days for me to really get over that feeling that we had truly made a difference in a way that I never have before or since.
The success of the operation was undoubtedly due to the countless hours of intense training that the team practices. Recently, Sheldon Yellen from our sponsor Belfour Property Restoration had the opportunity to experience this rigorous training firsthand.
Lieutenant, seeing all that went into this rescue, training is a huge part of this success.
Absolutely. Training every third day is very important, and that's what leads to great rescues. Trusting my people, communication is great for any rescue.
Firefighter Clark, this is the harness you used when you went down.
Yes, sir.
It's unbelievable. Well, this is where the trust and the belief come in, right?
Yes, sir.
Ready on belay?
Ready on belay.
Ready on mainline?
Mainline's ready.
Well, looking down, I can really see how you get a bird's eye view of a rescue from up here.
Yes, sir.
That's for sure. And I surely understand the trust and belief in the team. And clearly the harness allows you the mobility to make that rescue.
Yes, sir. Allows us to maneuver around and access the victim. Belay ready? Mainline ready? On the ground. Slack.
Wow.
Kind of sit down.
Thank you guys so much. This is unbelievable, and it's amazing what you go through. Thank you for what you do every day.
Lots of highly trained personnel at Paulding County and at Cobb County, and it showed on that day. Without the training that all these guys had, this outcome would have been totally different.
This rescue allowed one thankful man the opportunity to spend the holidays with his family.
He had a little bit of medical issue afterwards, but I think he was released on Christmas Eve.
And the news gave the rescue an appropriate moniker.
It kind of came to be known as the Christmas miracle.
It was a Christmas miracle. Got to go home and be with his family.
We got this guy out of here. That's, an elation that I've never experienced, to know that I was on a crew that really made a difference in this gentleman going home to his family before Christmas.
Some rescues are exceptional. Some are astonishing. Then there are those that are downright miraculous.
It's the rigorous training, seamless teamwork, and unyielding spirit of these courageous heroes that make such rescues possible. Thanks for joining us today, and don't miss our next adventure on Hearts of Heroes.